y'all about to be so mad at me because I keep forgetting. Like, my stuff is all over the place when it comes to like time frames and stuff. I told y'all about Myrtle Beach. I told y'all about the restaurant, and he came and back and told me he cheated on me. But that was while we were ministering at church. So I need to rewind and kind of go back to when we lived at another house before we moved to the house that we moved to for the ministry. So hold on one second. Okay, you guys know I worked at Chick-fil-A. I actually moved to another Chick-fil-A, and I wasn't taking transportation then. Actually, I was driving or being dropped off. We had one car. And so it's crazy. And I know like a lot of the time I would blame myself for the things that I almost said his name, the things that my ex did, but now I realize like none of this was my fault. I've made my mistakes. First of all, the mistake was marrying his ass, number one. Number two, in the marriage, if you look at it as a marriage, just as a marriage, no other contributing factors, I've made my mistakes. I should have just left. I should have just walked away. I should have gotten a divorce immediately. I should have never been with him, but I should have gotten a divorce immediately. So at this Chick-fil-A that I worked at, which made matters worse for me, I became really close with my coworkers. I loved my coworkers. It was a small unit Chick-fil-A. It was very small. And I became really close with everybody there. We were really good friends. I would hang out with some of the girls after work or on the weekends when we weren't working, whatever. Like, we were super cool with each other. There was a guy there that admittedly I would entertain. I would flirt with. Okay. Now, mind you, and this is not to make an excuse. This is to set the foundation of how our relationship got to where it got. Prior to me flirting with this guy at work at Chick-fil-A, my ex worked at Mexican restaurant that my friend's parents owned. They owned a couple of locations, and he worked at both of them. While he worked there, and remember I told you that he confesses everything. He always confesses everything without anybody asking him. He just blurts out stuff that he's done. He told me that he was, and this happened twice at the Mexican restaurant that he's told me. The first time was the very beginning of our relationship. He was flirting with this girl that worked at the restaurant. You know, looking at her body, making comments about her body, touching her butt. Cool, whatever. He told me that. All right. Then later on, when he worked at a different location, he confesses to me that over a period of time, he was flirting with this other girl at work. I confront this girl, and I'm like, you know, what are you doing? What are you guys doing? Like, you know, he's married. You see me coming here with our child all the time. Like, y'all need to stop. She ends up, and he tells me this. She ends up getting mad at him. Like, why would you tell her? Type of thing. Anyways, set the foundation. So I'm working at Chick-fil-A, and I start engaging with this guy at work. Like, I am tired, y'all. Like, at this point, I'm tired. I get treated like crap at home. This is not to make an excuse. This is to explain where my head was at. Okay? I was being treated so poorly at home. I was getting called names. Ugly. I felt worthless. He constantly put his hands on me. You know, I was always crying. I was always afraid. Things were always getting broken in that house. And this guy at work showed me a little bit of attention. He showed me a little bit of, wow, you're beautiful. And that little bit of, wow, you're beautiful, wow, I want to get to know you type thing did wonders for me, honey. Like, it opened up a whole new world that I was ready to dive in, married or not. Like, I was like, this is fun. This feels nice. Compliments? What? I'm pretty? What? Like, my husband did not tell me that. Like, no. Yes, okay. And he wasn't bad looking. He was tall and stuff. Like, I was like, okay, like, I can play around with this. Like, I can flirt with this a little bit. It wasn't until that morning before I went into work. He used to take me into work most of the time. That morning before I went into work, he blew up again. I ended up having a busted lip. My lip was swollen. It was bleeding. It was like in the corner, and it was obvious that something happened. Had a busted lip. I can feel it now just thinking about it. But I gotta go to work. I can't call in. Like, I have to go to work. He takes me to work after busting my lip. And before we get to work, he's worried about what it looks like. So he's telling me or giving me ideas of what I can say if people ask me what happened to my lip. He also took me to the racetrack. It's a gas station. He took me to a racetrack that was up the street. It's either racetrack or a QT, one of those big ones. He took me there, got me some ice, and had me hold the ice over my busted lip until we got to work. I got to work, and immediately, it almost makes me cry. Like, I'm not gonna cry, but it almost makes me cry to think about, because I was that person. Like, I was the person that people looked at and felt sorry for, felt afraid for. And that hurt that I became that person. Like, to think about it, that hurts that I became that person, that I was that person. Because now I see myself as strong. I see myself as resilient. And to think about that, and this is just me being 100% honest, like, it's embarrassing. Like, I walked into work with that busted lip, and the look on my coworker's face, it's like they wanted to ask the questions, but they didn't want to ask the questions. They knew of him. They knew his temperament. They knew his ways. So when I walked in with that busted lip, it's like everyone knew what it was. Everyone knew what it was. And the guy that was there that I would flirt with, he saw me, and he didn't speak much English. That's where I learned most of my Spanish. He didn't speak much English, and he was just saying, no good. This is no good. No good. And I also feel like he took advantage of that, because he knew I was in a vulnerable situation, a vulnerable spot, emotionally. And so we began texting more. We began talking more, like, just via, like, text and stuff.